It was the summer of 2008. I was 14 years old at the time and had just graduated from middle school. I would have about 3 months of summer vacation before starting high school. I've always looked forward to summer vacation as it would be the time I get to be with friends at the beach and at their houses playing video games. But one thing I've looked forward to the most was ordering ice cream from the ice cream truck that drove by my neighborhood every summer. I don't know if this is common, but my ice cream truck only drove by during the summer and not during the other seasons. Therefore, I had to make every moment count whenever it came by. Now, news had recently gone out that the ice cream truck driver had passed away due to a heart attack. This made me upset, not only because he was now dead, but because he was the only ice cream man who came by my neighborhood. So I felt really uncertain about how my summer vacation would be without him. It started off pretty boring. I didn't have the chance to hang out with my friends at the beach or at their houses. My dad was busy with work, and my mom was visiting my older sister every day to comfort her after having a bad breakup with her boyfriend. So I just had the whole house to myself from the morning until the evening with nothing much to do. But one day, while playing with my PS3 in my room, I started hearing a jingle I never heard of before. When it started getting louder and louder, I looked out my window to see what it was, and to my surprise, it was an ice cream truck. After going through a full week without one, a new one had finally arrived in my neighborhood. I was filled with so much excitement that I rushed downstairs and went outside to flag it down, not even taking the time to pause my game. Once the truck stopped, I met the driver face to face. He was a man with a big beard and looked to be in his 40s. He seemed nice enough. When he asked me what I wanted, I looked at the menu. At first, it offered the usual things most ice cream trucks serve, like ice cream cones, sundaes, and milkshakes. However, as I looked around more, I saw something unexpected. There was a section that featured these popsicles of horror movie characters, such as Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, and many others. All of them were manufactured by Popsicle, which was strange considering they only made popsicles of kid-friendly characters. What was even stranger was how there were no other popsicles on the menu. No popsicles of SpongeBob, Spider-Man, none. I wasn't appalled by it, but I was rather pleased. At that time, I was really into a lot of horror movies, so to see something of my great interest appear as popsicles was awesome. I ordered the Freddy Krueger popsicle, or Dreamsicle as it was called, since he was my favorite horror movie character. It was shaped like Freddy's head and had flavors of cherry and chocolate ice with 2 gumball eyes. When I got back inside my house, I looked at the packaging and saw something unusual. There was a caution label which read, "This product may cause nightmares and or kill children age 18 and under." There was no way that could be real, I thought to myself. I assumed it was just a little joke and ate the popsicle. It turned out to be delicious. The rest of the day was normal after that. It was when I got to bed that strange things started happening. That night, I had a dream. I was in a dark, pitch black room with nothing seen and no one in sight. It was just quiet, very quiet. 5 minutes later, a light started shining above where I was. As I began looking around, trying to find anything in sight, I saw something staring at me from a distance. After getting a closer look, it turned out to be Freddy Krueger himself. Instead of feeling scared or frightened, I was happy, since, after all, he was my favorite. But as I got close to him, he became very angry. With an angry grin on his face, he brought out his sharp-bladed glove and tried to slash me in my stomach. I screamed and ran as fast as I could to get away from him. As I ran, I bumped into nothing. There was some invisible force that blocked me from going any further. Before I could run in another direction, Freddy had caught up to me. He grabbed me by the throat, raised me, and slashed me in my stomach. But the moment I felt a little cut, I woke up. I managed to wake up from this dream, or nightmare, as I consider it. To get over what the hell I dreamt about, I got out of bed and took a shower. After the shower, before I put on my shirt, I noticed that the side of my stomach was bleeding from a little cut. It was at the exact place Freddy had slashed through in my nightmare. My heart started pounding as I stared at it. How did I get this cut? I asked myself. I didn't get near anything sharp. No way could this have been from the nightmare. No way could the things from A Nightmare on Elm Street become real. Before I spend more time observing this, my mom called me from downstairs to have breakfast. While I ate, a news report playing on the TV caught my attention. The report was about a group of 5 teenagers hanging out last night, drinking and smoking. But out of nowhere, someone had brutally murdered them. That's only what was suspected, though. All that was discovered were 5 puddles of blood on the ground, with each one having a popsicle stick in the center. Once I saw that, the horror movie Popsicles immediately came to mind. For some reason, I started wondering if they could have anything to do with that crime. I tried passing it off as a coincidence, but it was really hard to do so. After breakfast, I had the house to myself again. As I tried getting my mind to stop thinking about all that I'd seen, I heard the ice cream truck coming by again. I went outside to order something from it to help my mind feel at ease, even though that's what was causing my mind to feel overwhelmed in the first place. I looked at the menu of the horror movie Popsicles to see if their caution labels were strange like the Freddy Krueger popsicle. It turned out to be so. Instead of saying things like choking hazard or not for children under 3 years, they all said these weird warnings that couldn't possibly be real. The most notable one I remember was on a popsicle of Jason Voorhees, which read, "This product may kill attractive children age 18 and under who smoke marijuana and or drink alcohol and or have premarital relations." I didn't know a popsicle intended for us to take these caution labels as jokes or to take them seriously. I tried to order something else, but the ice cream man told me that everything was out of stock except the popsicles. Instead of just leaving like an idiot, I bought one. It was a popsicle of Michael Myers. Its caution label read, "This product may cause you to inexplicably murder your sister and or get shot 6 times by a psychiatrist in a trench coat." When I took the popsicle out of its package, the weirdest thing happened. My sister's ex-boyfriend was riding his skateboard down the sidewalk and quickly snatched the popsicle from my hand, yelling, "This is what happens when a bitch like your sister breaks up with a hotshot like me." I was shocked by what happened, but it was enough to finally clear out all that was stressing out my mind. Later that night, while I got ready for bed, I started reflecting on what that caution label said. This product may cause you to inexplicably murder your sister. I just reassured myself that if the warning were true, it would not affect me since my sister's ex-boyfriend took it. So I felt relieved and went to bed. The following morning, I woke up from another nightmare. It involved Freddy Krueger again. I was locked up in a prison cell, chained to the ceiling. I tried getting myself out, but there was no use. The prison bars then opened up, and out came Freddy Krueger. He stared at me with a disturbing grin and whispered, "How sweet, fresh meat." Then, with his sharp, bladed glove, he stabs me in the same place he previously cut my stomach. But my nightmare ended before I felt any pain. I had mixed feelings of both relief and fear after that. When I headed downstairs for breakfast, my mom, my dad, and my sister were together looking very upset. When I asked my dad what was wrong, he said that the sister of my sister's ex-boyfriend was found murdered in her house this morning. My mom and my sister went to her house earlier, and when they noticed the door slightly open, they went inside and found her body lying on her bed. Her head was missing, and so were some of her limbs. All that remained was her chest, which still had a knife stabbed between her breasts. There was surveillance video that captured the moment of the incident. Footage revealed that someone dressed in a Michael Myers costume broke into her house in the middle of the night and stabbed her to death while she was sleeping. The incident was reported to the police, who were currently investigating the crime. I got goosebumps after hearing how it all happened. I tried convincing myself that the Michael Myers popsicle had nothing to do with the situation. No way could my sister's ex-boyfriend do such a thing. Sure, he was an asshole most of the time, but he would never go this far into doing something this psychotic. With the distraught look I had on my face, my family knew something was up. When they asked me what was wrong, I simply stated how shocked I was to hear about all that had happened, and quickly went back into my room. I wanted to tell them what was on my mind, but I didn't want to sound like a lunatic. Later in the afternoon, my family left the house, and I was all by myself again. I promised myself this time that if the ice cream truck came by, I would not go outside to order anything from it, no matter how tempting it would be. Once I made that decision, I heard the ice cream truck jingle playing. I stayed inside my house and would not dare go outside. I even made sure that all of the windows and curtains in my house were shut, so it would seem like nobody was home. As the sound of the jingle grew closer and closer to my house, it suddenly stopped. I assumed the truck had already left, but I didn't want to go outside to check. After 5 minutes of silence, I peeked out through the window to see if it was gone, but it turned out that the truck was still there. It was parked right in front of my house. It was as if the ice cream man was waiting for me. I didn't want to go outside at that moment. I had to stay inside for as long as I could, just so he would take a hint. Another 5 minutes had passed, so I decided to go outside to see if he had left. But right before I put my hand on the doorknob, I heard the sound of footsteps on my porch. I quickly crouched on the floor and kept quiet as much as possible. Then a knock on the door was made, but I refused to answer. I stood my ground and chose not to answer it, even if it meant that I had to stay on the floor all day until my parents arrived. Another one was made, but I still refused to answer. But then, a loud pounding on the door was made, causing me to jump back from the floor and stumble into a houseplant. Fuck, I made noise and now the person knows I'm in the house. I immediately ran into the kitchen to pull out a sharp knife. I worked up the courage to open the door and attack whoever was there. But right when I was about to open the door, I heard the sound of footsteps leaving the porch. After staying still for a while, I looked out the window and saw nothing in sight. The ice cream truck was gone. When I finally opened the door, I looked down and saw a horror movie popsicle. It was a popsicle of Sam from Trick or Treat. Its caution label read, "Always check your popsicles." It sounded innocent enough compared to the other ones, so I brought it inside the house. When I opened the package, I saw something that would scar me for life. I was met with an awful smell, a smell like that of a decaying body. When I looked inside, I saw blood. So much blood was inside the package. My entire body was filled with so much shock and horror that I dropped the package, resulting in the blood spilling all over the living room floor. Once the blood finished being poured out of the package, I picked it up to see what else was inside. I saw the popsicle and the orange sucker it came with, drenched in blood. Then I saw 5 popsicle sticks all covered in blood. I instantly remembered the news report about the 5 teenagers who were mysteriously murdered. This confirmed to me that those popsicles did have something to do with that crime, and that everything else, the Freddy Krueger nightmares, and the murder of the ex-boyfriend's sister, were all caused by the warnings those popsicles had. They were cursed. I felt sick in my stomach and threw up so much in the bathroom just thinking about it, not to mention the horrible aroma of the blood that had already fragranced the house. Once I got myself together, I threw away the popsicle and everything that came with it. I also spent a lot of time cleaning the blood off the floor and getting rid of that horrid smell. After I was done, I went on my computer to look up those popsicles on the internet, for surely I couldn't be the only one who knew about them. I ended up finding a forum dedicated to everything about the popsicles and the ice cream truck that sold them. It turns out a lot of people across the country have reported sightings and experiences with the truck and its popsicles. There was a section that showed reports of incidents that were supposedly caused by the curses of the popsicles. All of them were disturbing to me, but I needed to find out the person behind all of this shit. Sure enough, I found a post that explained the origins of the popsicles and the ice cream man selling them. The ice cream man's name is Omar Verschilling. Before starting his ice cream truck business, he formerly worked as a sidekick. Though he wasn't one who could tell the future, he carried a lot of power to do various acts and activities that all seemed demonic, notably his ability to kill off anything he didn't like in an instant, such as people who criticized him. One day, the police shut down his business due to some quote-unquote illegal business dealings he was committing. He became very angry and sought revenge after them, but rather than killing them in an instant, he decided to kill them in the most unsuspected way possible. He started driving an ice cream truck, but instead of selling products that most ice cream trucks sold, He created his own products of popsicles of horror movie characters in order to appeal to those who saw them. He would set curses on them and warn what they were in their caution labels. Eventually, he visited the police station that had the cops shut down his business. Despite knowing who he was, the cops did something they would soon regret for the rest of their lives. They ordered his popsicles and ate them. When they read the caution labels, they all thought of them as jokes. But it later took 3 to 4 days for them to be killed in the strangest ways. But their causes of death were in alignment with the curses of the popsicles. The police knew what was up, but due to all the power he held, they chose not to make any attempts to arrest him or kill him. Ever since then, he's been driving through the country, selling his popsicles to whoever he has no problem with cursing. The only way anyone could put an end to his power would be by killing him in a way he least suspects. But how can you kill him before he kills you? I was filled with so much shock and fury reading all of that. An actual man with the ability to kill has been driving down my neighborhood. Reading that last statement motivated me to be the one to put an end to his power, even if it meant that death would get its grip on me. Later that night, while plotting how I could kill him, my dad was already home, but my mom and sister were still away, mourning the death of the ex-boyfriend's sister. It was a Friday night, and my dad made plans to go out with his friends to a nightly shooting range. He had to go to the gun shop to purchase more bullets, so I was left alone in the house once he left. That's when it dawned on me that my dad's gun would be the weapon used to kill the ice cream man. The only problem was that my dad's gun was locked away in a safe I could not access. But when I went to his bedroom, it was surprisingly left on top of his bed, so I had an open opportunity to use it. But because it was late, it was very unlikely that he would drive by at that time, since he only drove by during the day. Right when I considered aborting the mission entirely, I started hearing something outside. It sounded like music. It sounded like a jingle. I looked outside through my bedroom window and saw the ice cream truck driving down my street. I was both happy and confused at the same time. Why the fuck was it driving by this late at night? It was getting close to midnight, so who the hell would want ice cream at this time? This couldn't be a common thing for ice cream trucks to do. But none of that mattered. What did was the fact that I had an open shot at killing him. So I grabbed my dad's gun, loaded it up, and rushed downstairs to the living room. I opened one of the windows and waited for him to reach my house. Once he did, the truck suddenly stopped. I felt a little scared as I thought he could have seen me, but I wasn't going to take the time to think, but the time to act. Right before aiming at his head and pulling the trigger, I stopped after seeing this. A little girl, who looked to be 5 or 6 years old, went up to the truck to get ice cream. Oh no, I thought to myself. I was scared because I knew what was about to happen. Whatever popsicle she eats, she will forever be cursed by it. I debated whether or not I should go out there to stop her, but if I went out there, the ice cream man would know what I would be up to and kill me in an instant. I was ready to give up and go back into my room, but seeing the girl get her hands on the Freddy Krueger popsicle made me run outside with my gun to push it away from her hands and jump up to the window of the truck and shoot the ice cream man in the face, successfully killing him. Once his body went down, I realized what I had done. I killed a man. The feeling of achievement went away, and the fear of my life entered in. The little girl, after seeing all that had happened, began crying and screaming for her parents. I immediately ran into the street. I ran as far as I could to get away from the scene, but I stopped when I approached a car that was oncoming towards me. It was my dad. He told me to get in the car, and when I did, he asked me what the hell I was doing and why I was carrying his gun. I tried telling him about the ice cream man and what I had done to him, but my speech was very slurred during that moment, so he couldn't understand what I was saying. He yelled at me and told me that I was in a lot of trouble and that he would have the police take me into custody the next morning. But when we returned home, the police were already there. When I got out, the little girl with her parents pointed at me and said, "That's the mean man who shot the friendly ice cream man." One of the officers then came up to me and asked what was going on. My mind was luckily in place, so I was able to explain all that I needed to say. I didn't care if I sounded crazy or not. I told him that the ice cream man whom I shot was the infamous Omar Schilling, who's been selling horror movie popsicles that curse victims ever since his business got shut down by the police years ago. I thought saying that would be enough to have me committed, but the officer had a believable expression on his face, as if he understood everything I was saying. He ordered everyone to return home and assured us that an investigation would begin the following morning. The next day, the police investigated the ice cream truck and made a horrific discovery. Inside the freezer that held the cursed popsicles were various body parts, all identified as belonging to the 5 teenagers mysteriously murdered. They also found a head and a set of limbs that were later identified to be the head and limbs of the ex-boyfriend's sister. Even though certain individuals, such as the person dressed up as Michael Myers, who turned out to be my sister's ex-boyfriend, committed these crimes, every case was dismissed as being the work of Omar Schilling. My sister's ex-boyfriend, when speaking about the situation, claimed that after eating the Michael Myers popsicle, he felt a sudden urge to kill his sister. He really didn't want to, but he did in order to get rid of the thoughts that were tormenting him. But the shame and guilt he faces for doing it now haunts him forever. On a lighter note, I have not dealt with any more Freddy Krueger nightmares since then. So as far as I know, the curses of the popsicles no longer have any effect on anyone. I felt proud for being the one to end all of this and presumably save the lives of others. But this experience has left me traumatized for the rest of my life. I no longer have any interest in ice cream trucks or popsicles. The only lesson I got from this experience is to always read the caution label on a product.